Hey there, deep dive listeners. Ever feel like everyone else has this secret playbook for managing money? Except you.
Yeah, it's like this hidden world of financial jargon and insider tips that only a select few are in on.
Exactly. But today, we're ditching the complicated stuff and getting real, surprisingly practical advice with, get this, the Money Mentor.
I love that. Getting rid of all that financial jargon, it's refreshing,
It is. This deep dive is all about empowering you with knowledge you can actually use. Starting with something I'm sure we've all encountered. Remember when banks were pushing offset accounts?
Oh, yeah, they were all over that for a while. Like, it was the magic bullet for paying off your mortgage faster, right?
Yeah. And while they can be helpful, the Money Mentor doesn't hold back on calling out how it often plays out in the real world. It's like they gave us this shiny new tool that seemed like a no-brainer, but for many people it actually backfired.
It's fascinating, isn't it?
It is. What do you think is the psychology behind that?
Well, offset accounts often come with these easy access credit lines, which, let's face it, can make spending feel much easier. So instead of using that offset account to diligently pay down their mortgage, people were tempted to spend more, often racking up more credit card debt.
Oh, that's so true. It's like it almost backfires.
It does, in a way, yeah.
It's a classic example of how our behavior, doesn't always match up with our best intentions.
Yeah.
And you know who benefits from that? The banks, right? The more products we use, the more fees and interest they collect. And the Money Mentor calls this share of wallet.
Share of wallet, exactly. It's how banks encourage you to have your checking account, savings account, credit card, loans, all in one place. They frame it as being convenient for the customer.
Right.
But often leads to people having multiple accounts with fees and interest. Even if it's not the best deal for them, they've got you in their system.
It's like they're saying, come to the convenience, stay because you're stuck.
Exactly. That's a good way to put it.
And the book doesn't stop there. It goes on to call the entire way we're conditioned to think about mortgages the Great Australian Scam. And it really breaks it down with this eye-opening example. So we've got a $500,000 loan at a 4% interest rate. Pretty standard, right? If you make only the minimum repayments for the full 30 years, you'll end up paying an extra $362,000 in interest alone.
Just in interest.
$362,000. That's like another house. Or, I don't know, a lifetime supply of avocado toast, whatever your vice may be. But seriously, that's a huge chunk of change.
It's a scary thought, isn't it?
It is. It's a lot of money.
It really highlights how the structure of those traditional long-term mortgages can work against us. But the good news is the book lays out a different path.
Okay.
It's called the Not-So-Secret Secret to paying off your mortgage in a fraction of the time, think 7 to 10 years, not 30.
Okay, now I'm really intrigued. Tell me more about this not-so-secret secret.
Sure. So it's not some complicated financial instrument or anything.
Okay.
It's more about restructuring your relationship with money.
Okay.
So instead of making those minimum repayments, which mostly cover interest at the beginning of the loan, the book dives into strategies like making bi-weekly mortgage payments.
Oh, interesting. Bi-weekly.
Yeah. Which essentially adds up to an extra monthly payment each year.
Okay.
So you're chipping away at your principal faster, thanks to the power of compounding. It also advocates for the debt snowball method, where you focus on paying off your smallest debts first.
Oh, we've heard of that.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
It is, and this helps build momentum and frees up more cash flow to tackle those larger debts, like your mortgage, sooner.
So it's kind of like a psychological boost, too.
Yeah, you get that sense of accomplishment.
You feel good.
Yeah, exactly.
And on top of these practical strategies, the book also talks about changing your mindset, right? Like actually getting excited about managing your money.
Absolutely, because it really encourages you to take control of your finances instead of feeling like they're controlling you.
Right. Because a lot of people, I think, feel like, oh God, my finances. They're controlling me. I don't know what to do.
It can feel overwhelming, right?
It can.
But the book really emphasizes it's not just about, being good at math. It's about understanding your own spending habits and making conscious choices that align with your goals.
So it's about identifying those sneaky expenses, those little things that add up over time. You know what the book calls them?
Like that.
Shit tax.
Shit tax. I love that. It's very catchy.
I know. I was like, yes, shit tax.
It's so true, though.
It's so true. And it covers things like impulse buys at the checkout line.
Yeah.
Those unnecessary subscription services you forgot you were paying for.
The worst.
And even those convenience fees, that we just kind of accept without a second thought.
Yep, they get you every time.
It's like death by 1,000 paper cuts, but for your bank balance. Speaking of which, The book tells this very compelling story of a couple earning $11,000 a month. They weren't like rolling in money or anything.
Right.
But by implementing those not-so-secret methods we just discussed, the biweekly payments, debt snowballs, they managed to put an extra $66,000 towards their mortgage principal in just 1 year.
1 year. That's amazing.
$66,000 in a year. That's incredible.
Mm-hmm.
It really shows that you don't need a massive income to make significant progress.
It's not about how much you earn, is it?
No, it's not.
It's about what you do with it.
It's more about the strategy and that consistency.
Exactly.
Which a lot of people, I think, they want that quick fix, that magic pill.
We want it to be easy.
Yeah, but it's not.
It's about putting in the work and being consistent.
It's like anything else.
Yeah.
You have to put in the work to get the results. And it highlights that snowball effect that happens when you start channeling your money intentionally. But it doesn't stop at getting out of debt. The book goes further to explore different investment options like shares and property. So it's not just about digging yourself out of a hole. It's about building wealth strategically for the future.
Building that solid foundation.
Exactly. But before we dive into those investment strategies, let's take a quick break. When we come back, we'll unpack the Money Mentor's advice on investing like a pro without actually having to be one. Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Before the break, we were talking about tackling your mortgage faster than you ever thought possible.
Yeah, some really interesting strategies there.
There were, weren't there? Now, the Money Mentor goes beyond just paying off debt. It also dives into building wealth strategically and explores two major investment avenues, the stock market and real estate. But it doesn't just leave you hanging with vague advice.
Right, it's not like just go invest. It actually breaks down the pros and cons of each approach.
It does, and I really appreciate that. Because a lot of times I feel like we're just told, oh, you got to invest, you got to get in the stock market.
Right, like it's a one-size-fits-all solution.
Exactly, but it's not that simple, is it?
No, it's not. Everyone's financial situation is different. Their risk tolerance is different.
Exactly. So the book acknowledges the potential for high returns in the stock market. It does highlight that volatility.
Because it can be a roller coaster ride. Right.
It can.
And if you're prone to panic selling when things get a bit bumpy.
Oh, yeah. You could lose your shirt.
Exactly. So it might not be the best fit for you.
Right. It depends on your personality type, too.
It really does.
So where does property fit into all of this?
So the author is a big advocate for property, especially residential property, as a long-term investment.
And it's interesting how he leans in that direction, especially since we hear so much these days about the stock market and all these fancy investment apps.
Right. Everyone wants to be the next Warren Buffett.
Yeah, exactly. But his reasoning makes a lot of sense. He argues that property offers something tangible, something concrete.
You can see it, touch it.
Exactly. You can't really do that with a stock, can you? You know, it's not like you can go and hug your Amazon shares.
Right.
But you can go and visit your rental property.
Exactly. And I think that gives people a sense of security, a sense of stability.
It's true. Knowing you have a physical asset.
Exactly.
It's reassuring.
It is. Plus, he points out that over the long haul, property values tend to appreciate, even with those inevitable market fluctuations.
Right, because the market goes up, the market goes down.
Exactly. But on top of that, there's the potential for rental income, which can provide a steady stream of passive income.
Oh, passive income. Everybody loves that.
Who doesn't want money coming in while they sleep?
Exactly. So you're not just waiting for your investment to increase in value. It's actually working for you in the meantime, generating that cash flow.
Exactly. Now, he's not saying shares are off the table entirely. He does acknowledge their potential for higher returns.
Right.
But cautions that it requires more active management, research, and a certain comfort level with risk.
So it really boils down to knowing yourself, your financial goals, and how much risk you're comfortable taking on.
Exactly. And even if property is more your speed, the Money Mentor reminds us that simply buying a house isn't always the magic bullet it's made out to be.
Right, because we talked about earlier, that great Australian scam. That 30-year mortgage ends up costing you way more than you bargained for.
Way more. So while owning your own home is a fantastic goal, it's not always the most strategic first step on the investment ladder.
Interesting. So what does he suggest instead?
Well, he introduces this really interesting concept called rent vesting.
Rent vesting. That's a new one. Tell me more.
Okay, so rent vesting is a strategy where you rent in the area where you want to live, maybe a more expensive area, but instead of pouring all your money into buying there, you invest in property in a more affordable location with potentially higher rental yields.
Okay, so you're essentially using the rental income from your investment property to help offset the cost of renting in your desired area.
Exactly.
So you kind of get the best of both worlds.
In a way, yeah. It's a way to get your foot in the property market without having to overextend yourself financially or compromise on your lifestyle.
It's a really clever approach. It challenges that traditional notion of having to buy where you live and opens up a world of possibilities for investors.
It does, doesn't it?
It does.
And speaking of eye-opening ideas, the Money Mentor also delves into the psychology of spending and how to escape the credit card debt trap.
Credit cards, the double-edged sword of modern finance. They can be so convenient, but also so easy to misuse. What kind of insights does the book offer on this?
Well, the author doesn't mince words. He calls credit cards a form of debt slavery.
Wow. Debt slavery, that's a powerful term.
It is. He's highlighting how those minimum repayment structures and sky-high interest rates can keep people trapped in a cycle of debt for years.
It's like you're on a treadmill. You can't get off.
Exactly. And he backs it up with this chilling example. Imagine a $10,000 credit card balance. Not an uncommon scenario, right?
Unfortunately, no.
With a 17.5% interest rate, which again is pretty typical. If you only make those minimum payments, it could take over 17 years to pay off.
17 years.
And get this, you'd end up shelling out over $8,000 in interest alone.
It's like you're paying for an invisible car that you never get to drive.
Right. All that money just vanishing into thin air.
It's heartbreaking, really, when you think about it.
It is, but the good news is the Money Mentor doesn't just leave you feeling hopeless. It provides concrete strategies to break free from that cycle.
Okay, so what can people do? Because I'm sure many of our listeners can relate to that feeling of being stuck.
Absolutely, it's a common problem. Well, one of the key messages is to avoid falling into the trap of only making minimum payments.
Right, which is tempting because it feels manageable in the moment.
Exactly. It feels good in the short term, but it's a long and costly road.
It's deceptive.
It really is. So instead, he encourages readers to explore options like balanced transfer cards with lower interest rates for a set period.
Oh, that's a good strategy.
Yeah, this can buy you some breathing room to tackle your debt more aggressively.
Okay, so you're not just, treading water. You're actually making progress.
Exactly. He also stresses the importance of being brutally honest with yourself about your spending habits.
There's that know thyself approach again, right?
Yeah.
Understanding where your money's going and why.
Exactly. And it's not about deprivation. It's about empowerment.
Because a lot of people, I think, when they hear budgeting, they think, oh, that means I can't do anything fun. I can't enjoy myself.
Right. They think it's all about restriction.
Yes, but it's not about that, is it?
No, it's about making conscious choices that align with your values.
Exactly. So once you're aware of your spending patterns, you can start making more conscious choices that align with your financial goals.
And that's really the key, isn't it? Making choices that support the life you want to live.
It is. It's about taking control. It's interesting how he ties all these concepts together. It's not just about budgeting or investing in isolation. It's about cultivating a healthy and empowered relationship with your finances across the board.
It's a holistic approach, isn't it?
It is. It's about changing your mindset, changing your habits, and ultimately changing your life. And the Money Mentor provides a really compelling framework for doing just that. And we're back for the final part of our deep dive into the Money Mentor.
It's been a really insightful conversation, hasn't it?
It has. We've covered so much ground. Yeah. From busting those mortgage myths to outsmarting those pesky shit taxes. But now let's shift gears a little bit and talk about something that might seem, well, a bit boring at first glance, the day-to-day management of your money.
The nitty-gritty.
Exactly. Because it's all well and good to have this solid financial plan, all these strategies, but if you're not putting them in action, well, that's not going to amount to much, is it?
Right. It's got to be practical.
Exactly. And one of the most practical yet surprisingly counterintuitive suggestions from the Money Mentor is to treat your home loan account like your everyday bank account.
Interesting. That sounds a little bit radical, doesn't it?
It does, a little bit. How does that work in practice?
I'm curious too.
So it's actually quite simple. Instead of having your paycheck deposited into a separate checking account, you direct it straight into your home loan account.
Oh, okay. So you're basically using your mortgage as your central hub for managing your cash flow.
Precisely.
Okay.
Then you set up a weekly transfer to a separate account for your everyday expenses, groceries, bills, that sort of thing.
So instead of having your money kind of sitting there in a low interest checking account,
right,
it's constantly chipping away at your mortgage principal, saving you interest every single day.
Yes.
It's like that old adage, time in the market beats timing the market, But for your mortgage.
That's a great analogy.
Right.
So it makes a lot of sense when you think about it. But what about the practicality? What about like managing your bills, making payments? How does that all work?
Right, because a lot of people have those direct debits set up.
Exactly.
So how do you manage that?
So you can actually set up automatic bill payments directly from your home loan account, just like you would with a regular checking account.
Oh, okay.
So the key is to be organized. Make sure you're staying on top of your transfers, your payments.
Right, so you don't get caught short.
Exactly. And while this approach, it might not be for everyone.
Right.
The book makes a compelling case for how it can streamline your financial life and help you reach those mortgage-free goals faster.
I can see that.
But it doesn't stop there. The Money Mentor also dives into the importance of diversifying your income, especially as you approach retirement.
Oh, that's huge.
It is, and it's becoming increasingly crucial, isn't it? Because we can't just rely on that old model of working a single job for 40 years and then, sailing off into the sunset with a company pension.
Right, those days are long gone for most people.
Exactly. So the author encourages readers to explore multiple avenues for generating income, things like investing in rental properties, starting a side business.
Oh, yeah, the side hustle. Everyone's got a side hustle these days.
I know, right? Even continuing to work part-time in a field they enjoy.
Right, something you're passionate about.
Exactly. So it's about creating that safety net, having those multiple streams of income to cushion the blow if one dries up, or if those unexpected expenses pop up.
Right, because life happens, doesn't it?
It does. It's about having those options, that flexibility.
And it allows you to design a retirement that aligns with your passions and your priorities.
Exactly. And that brings us to what I think is one of the most important takeaways from the Money Mentor. It's not just about the numbers.
Oh, tell me more about that.
It's about the mindset.
It's about changing your relationship with money, isn't it?
It is. It's about shifting your perspective from feeling overwhelmed and powerless to feeling empowered and in control of your financial destiny. And the book repeatedly emphasizes this, the importance of taking ownership of your financial well-being.
Right, because knowledge is power.
It is. It's about challenging conventional wisdom and creating a life of abundance, recognizing that we have more power than we think when it comes to our finances.
We don't have to be victims of circumstance.
Exactly. We don't have to be slaves to debt. We can make conscious choices, develop healthy financial habits, and build a future that aligns with our values and goals.
Well said. I love that.
So there you have it, deep divers. Another insightful exploration, this time diving deep into the Money Mentor. We hope you found it insightful, thought-provoking, but most importantly, empowering. Until next time.